one from calculating work and power. We're going to start with number 8, and then we're going to do number 10 on your work and power, because I think those are probably the most difficult ones. Let's start with number 8. Number 8 says a pump drains a small pond performing 120,000 joules of work. So they've given you work. The power rating of the pump is 1,000 watts, so they've given you the power. And they're asking for how long does it take to drain the pond. So they're looking for time, which we don't know. So looking at those three things that they have given us and the one thing that they're asking about, we can use the power formula to calculate, to figure out how long it would take to drain the pond. So I'll start by writing the formula. Power equals work divided by time. I plug in what they give me, 1,000 for the power, 120,000 for the work, and t remains t because I don't know what it is, but now I can solve for t. The thing that's tricky about this problem is the t is in the bottom of the fraction here, and so we need to do a couple things, or at least one thing, to get the t out of the denominator, because we don't like to mess with variables in the denominator. So what we do in order to do that and get rid of the t in the denominator is we multiply both sides by t, because that will get rid of it over here, and we'll be left with 120,000 is equal to 1,000 t. And then that's a very easy problem. You divide both sides by 1,000, and 120,000 divided by 1,000 is, let's see, 120 divided by 1,000, 120. So t equals 120. And we're not quite done yet because we need to label it, and since this is time, and time we always want to use the unit of for time as seconds. So you can either put a small s, or sometimes there's seconds is abbreviated like that, and put a box around your answer. It would take 120 seconds to drain that pond with a pump with that much power. Okay? Number 10. An elevator lifts 5 passengers 30 meters, that's a distance, in 24 seconds, that's a time. The power is 15,000 watts, that's power. What is the total weight? And if you remember, when we're talking about weight in these problems, we want to think about that as a force. So when they say what is the total weight, we want to look for the force is what we're looking for. Okay? And in order to do that, we know that power, we just use power in the problem above as power equals work divided by time. But we don't know the work. But we do know another formula for power, and that is power equals force times distance divided by time, because force times distance is work. So we can use those interchangeably. Okay? So now we can plug in what we know. We know the power, so for P we're going to put in 15,000. We don't know the force, so we're going to leave that. The distance we know is 30 meters, and the time we know is 24 seconds. Okay, this is a couple step solving an equation, but it's not too bad. Whenever I see a fraction, the first thing I think to do is to get rid of that fraction. So in order to do that, I multiply both sides by the denominator, which is 24. And if I do that on my calculator, 24 times 15,000 equals 360,000. And I'm left with, over here, force times 30. And now it's just a pretty simple, last step is to divide both sides by 30. And if I do that, divided by 30 equals 12,000. So force equals 12,000. And force is always in newtons. So the tricky part about that problem is they asked for the weight, and you just need to remember that whenever they're talking about the weight, we want to talk about the force. Force and weight are the same thing. Sorry, you couldn't see that last part. Okay? So, box around your answer, labeled it in newtons because force is always in newtons. All right, and the last one I'm going to do is number 3 on calculating working power. A 5-kilogram rock is lifted 2 meters in 5 seconds. Kilograms, if you remember, whenever you see kilograms, you want to take kilograms and multiply it times gravity to change it to a force. Unless they ask what is the mass, which they probably won't ask this in this problem. For our purposes, whenever you see kilograms, you want to change it to a force by multiplying it times gravity. So I did that on my calculator, and I'm going to cross that out, and I'm going to change that mass into a force of 49 newtons. So a 49 Newton rock is lifted 2 meters in 5 seconds. What is the work? So this is a distance, this is a time. Work equals force times distance. Work, we don't know. Force, we do know. Times distance, we do know. And work equals 2 times 49 is 98. And work is always labeled in joules or Newton meters. And part B, what is the power? What is the total power used? Okay, so what I need to find the power is work and time. I just found the work and they gave me time. So power equals work divided by time. Power equals 98. Just took that from there, put it into the formula. 98 divided by time is 5 seconds. And if I do that on my calculator, 98 divided by 5 equals 19.6. And power is in watts, so you can label that with a small w and put a box around your answer. So remember to practice these problems. You'll get better at it if you do, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.